welcome back to my channel. In today's video, as you saw in the title, we are going to talk about a serial killer. It's been a while since I've made a video about a serial killer, and not gonna lie, these are my favorite types of videos. I love watching like documentaries or true crime videos here on YouTube about serial killers. They're always my favorite to watch, especially because I like to try to understand what goes in these people's minds, what led them to just kill a bunch of people, usually strangers. It's the psychological part that I try to understand. But before we start this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't done already, and click the bell next to the subscribe button so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. I post videos every Saturday, and if you want to, if that's the case, you can reach out to me through the comments or through my social media. My Instagram, my Twitter will be linked down below in the description box. And before we get into the video, I want to say that next week is Halloween and I have a different video for you guys. It's going to be like a true crime video, but it's not going to be just true crime. I don't want to spoil it, so you will have to wait. If you're curious, subscribe and turn notifications on, so as soon as I upload the video, you get a notification. But without any further ado, let's just start this video. Ricardo Leiva Muñoz Ramirez was born on February 29th of 1960 in El Paso, Texas. He was the fifth child of Mexican immigrants Mercedes and Julian Ramirez, and he was also known as Richard or Ricky. At an early age, he had suffered multiple head injuries. When he was 5, he was hit by a swing, and since then he began experiencing epileptic fits. As a teenager, Richard was influenced by his older cousin, Miguel, who had recently returned from fighting in the Vietnam War. The two smoked marijuana together while Miguel told his cousin how he had raped, murdered, tortured, and dismembered Vietnamese women. He even showed Polaroid pictures. And the worst part was that Richard was fascinated by all of it. When he was 13 years old, he witnessed his cousin Miguel shooting his wife in the face. And the thing is, he said that event wasn't traumatic for him at all. Instead, he said that witnessing such a violent death deeply fascinated him. While he was still in school, he got a job at a local hotel, Holiday Inn, and he used his passkey to rob sleeping guests. On at least one occasion, he fondled and molested 2 children in an elevator, but that was never reported. He ended up getting fired after he attempted to rape a woman in a room. Luckily, her husband returned to the room just in time, and even though he beat him senselessly at the scene, criminal charges were then dropped because the couple who lived out of state declined to testify against him. He ended up dropping out of school when he was in the 9th grade, and when he was 17, he was arrested for the first time for marijuana possession. At the age of 22, Richard moved to California, where he started to consume cocaine and started to get interest in Satanism.
Worship the devil? Have you ever studied Satanism?
There are different sects of Satanism.
Have you studied, just yes or no, have you studied
Yes,
Satanism?
yes I have.
Are you a worshiper of the devil?
No comment.
He was arrested twice in the Los Angeles area for auto theft in 1981 and in 1984, and he didn't take long for theft to turn into violence and murder. On April 10th of 1984, Richard murdered a 9-year-old Chinese-American girl named Mei Lang. I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong. He killed her in the basement of the apartment building he was living at the time in San Francisco. The girl was with her 8-year-old brother when she lost a $1 bill and went to look for it. Richard approached her and told her that he knew where he was and to her to follow him. Once they were in the basement, Richard beat, strangled, raped, and then ended up stabbing her to death. At first, this murder wasn't connected to Richard, the known Night Stalker, because it didn't fit his modus operandi. Every single killer has one, and this crime just didn't fit his. It was only in 2009 that Richard's DNA was matched with a sample taken from the crime scene. Also, in 2016, officers believed that there was a second person that was present in that basement. They identified the second suspect through a DNA sample taken from the crime scene, but the suspect has never been publicly identified, and charges haven't been brought due to the lack of evidence. On June 28th of 1984, 79-year-old Jenny Vinca was found dead in her apartment in Glassell Park, Los Angeles. She had been stabbed repeatedly in her head, chest, and neck while she was asleep. and her throat slashed so deeply that she was nearly decapitated. And Richard's fingerprints were found at the scene. On March 17 of 1985, in Rosemead, California, 22-year-old Maria Hernandez had just pulled into her garage when she was shot in the face. She had her keys in her hand and she lifted them up to protect herself, and the bullet ricocheted, so she survived, thankfully. Maria then played dead until Richard left the scene. Her roommate, unfortunately, didn't have the same luck. Inside the house, her roommate, Daily Okazaki, heard the gunshot and ducked in the kitchen counter when she saw Richard get into the kitchen. When she raised her head to see what was happening, Richard shot her once in the forehead and that killed her instantly. Within an hour of the Rosemead home invasion, Richard pulled 30-year-old Cy Leon Yu out of her car in Monterey Park and shot her twice and then left the scene. She was pronounced dead upon arrival at the hospital. These two murders, and the attempted third in a single day, attracted media who described this attacker as a curly-haired with bulging eyes and wide, spaced, rotting teeth. 10 days later, on March 27, he entered a house that he had already robbed a year earlier, just outside of Whitney, California at approximately 2 a.m., and he killed 64-year-old Vincent Zazzara with a gunshot to his head while he was sleeping. Vincent's wife, Maxine, was awakened by the gunshot, and Richard beat her and bound her hands while demanding to know where her valuables were. While Richard ransacked the room, Maxine was able to escape her bounds and she retrieved a shotgun from under the bed, which was not loaded, and then Richard ended up shooting her 3 times. Then, with a knife that he had taken from the kitchen, he stabbed her body multiple times and removed her eyes, and then put her eyes in a jewelry box that he took to his apartment. Richard left footprints of AVS sneakers in their bedroom, and this was the only evidence that police had at the time. Bullets found at the scene matched those from previous attacks, and then police determined that they had a serial killer at large. On May 14, Richard returned to Monterey Park, where he entered the home of Bill Doy, who was 66, and his disabled wife, Lillian, who was 56. Bill was in his bedroom when Richard shot him in the face. After beating Bill into unconsciousness, Richard ran to Lillian's bedroom where he bound her with thumb cuffs and then raped her, and after that, he ransacked the house for valuables. And unfortunately, Bill ended up dying for his injuries while he was in the hospital. On the night of May 29, Richard drove a stolen car to Monrovia and stopped at the house of 83-year-old Mabel Pell and her 81-year-old disabled sister, Florence Link. Finding a hammer in the kitchen, he bludgeoned and bound Florence in her bedroom, and then he did the same to Mabel before using an electrical cord to shock her. He then proceeded to rape Florence, and after that he used her sister's lipsticks to draw the satanic pentagram symbol on her thighs and on the walls of both bedrooms. So as I said earlier, he was into Satanism, and he then started to draw the satanic symbol on the houses of his victims. The two sisters were found 2 days later. They were alive but comatose and severely injured, and Mabel later died of her injuries in the hospital. The next day, Richard drove the same car to Burbank and he snuck into the house of 42-year-old Carol Kyle. At gunpoint, he bound Carol and her 11-year-old son with handcuffs while he ransacked the house. And then he released Carol for her to tell him where the valuables were. And after that, he raped her repeatedly. He also repeatedly ordered her to not look at him, and at one point he said that he would cut her eyes out if she looked at him. He then fled the scene, but not before he bound Carol and her son together with handcuffs again. On the night of July 22nd, Richard drove a stolen car to Arcadia and it shows the home of 75-year-old Mary Louise. After he entered the house, he saw that Mary Louise was asleep in a bedroom, and he beat her unconsciously with a lamp, and then proceeded to stab her to death with a 10-inch butcher knife that he found in her kitchen. And after she was already dead, he kept stabbing her. So I just took a little break to eat something and drink some water, but now I'm back, so let's just continue this video. On July 5th, Richard broke into a house in Sierra Madre and he bludgeoned 16-year-old Whitney Bennett with a tire iron in her bedroom. After searching the house in vain for a knife, he went back to her bedroom and tried to strangle her with a telephone cord. He stated that he was startled to see the electrical sparks emanate from the cord, and when she began to breathe again, he fled the scene and said that Jesus Christ had intervened and saved her. Fortunately, Whitney survived, although 4,078 stitches were required to close the lacerations to her scalp. On July 7th, Richard broke into the house of Joyce Nelson, who was 60 years old, and she was sleeping in her living room couch when he beat her to death. He stomped on her face repeatedly, which left a show print of an avian sneaker imprinted in her face. In the same night, at Monterey Park, he broke into the house of Sophie Dickman, who was 63 years old. He handcuffed Sophie at gunpoint and he attempted to rape her, and then he stole all of her jewelry. And when she swore to him that he had taken everything of value, he told her to swear on Satan. This guy was sick. On July 20th, Richard purchased a machete before driving a stolen Toyota to Glendale. He broke into the house of Leila Kneeding, aged 66, and her husband Maxon, aged 68. As it happened in the previous murders, the couple was asleep in their bedroom when Richard burst in. First, Richard hacked them with a machete and then he shot them to the head. After they were already dead, he continued to mutilate their bodies with the machete. And then he proceeded to do what he always did, to rob the house. And after that, he drove to St. Pauli. It was around 4:50 in the morning when Richard broke into the house of the Covenant family. He shot the sleeping Shinarong. I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, I'm sorry. He shot him in the head, which killed him instantly, and then he went to rape and beat some kid. He then bound the couple's 8-year-old son before dragging some kid around the house for her to tell him where the valuables were. And during this, he was demanding her to swear on Satan that she wasn't hiding any money from him. On August 6th, he drove to Northridge and he broke into the house of Chris and Virginia Peterson. He entered their bedroom and shot in the face 27-year-old Virginia. He then shot Chris in the neck and attempted to flee the scene. However, Chris was able to fall back while avoiding getting hit by 2 more shots. But then Richard ended up escaping anyway. But fortunately, the couple survived their injuries. On August 8th, Richard drove a stolen car to Diamond Bar in California, and he broke into the house of Sakina and Elias Abotwath. It was sometime after 2:30 in the morning when Richard broke into the house and entered the master bedroom when he shot Elias in the head, which killed him instantly. He then proceeded to handcuff and beat Sakina and demanding for her to tell him where the jewelry was. And then he raped her, and once again he told her to swear on Satan that she will not scream. The couple had a 3-year-old son, and he ended up waking up and went to his parents' bedroom. And then Richard tied him up and forced him to watch his mother being raped. After Richard left, Sakina untied her son and sent him to the neighbors for him to get help. So until this moment, he had murdered several people in the Los Angeles area. And he had been following the media coverage on his murders, so he decided to go to San Francisco. On August 18th, he broke into the house of Peter and Barbara Penn. He shot 60-year-old Peter in the temple while he was sleeping, which killed him instantly. And he then beat and sexually abused 62-year-old Barbara and then shot her in the head and fled the scene. Before he left the scene, he also used a lipstick to draw a pentagram and the phrase "Jack the Knife" on the bedroom wall. And investigators found a shoe print of a specific pair of Avios shoes that wasn't common at the time. The league detectives, Frank Salerno and Jill Carrillo, contacted the manufacturer of Avios shoes, and they found out that only 6 pairs of those shoes existed in a size 11.5. 5 pairs were shipped to locations in Arizona, and only 1 pair was shipped to a store in Los Angeles. So they were certain that that pair belonged to Richard. When it was discovered that the ballistics and the shoe print found on the Los Angeles crime scenes matched the Peter Pan crime scene, San Francisco then Mayor Dianne Feinstein divulged the information in a television press conference, which was the worst thing that it could possibly have been done, because Richard was following the media. So then he ended up dropping his aviator sneakers on the side of the Golden Gate Bridge. Then he remained in the area for a few more days before heading back to Los Angeles. On August 24th, Richard drove 76 miles south of Los Angeles in a stolen orange Toyota to Mission Viejo. That night he arrived to the house of James Romero Jr., who had just returned from a family vacation in Mexico. His son, James Romero III, was 13 years old at the time. He just happened to be awake at that night, and he heard Richard's footsteps outside of the house. So then James went to wake up his parents, and by this time Richard was fleeing the scene. James rested outside and he noted the color, make, and style of the car, as well as a partial license plate number. Then they contacted the police with this information, believing that James had just chased away a thief, when in reality he was a serial killer and that 13-year-old boy just saved his family. On the same night, Richard broke into the house of 30-year-old Bill Carnes and his fiancée, Inez. Richard entered their room while they were sleeping, but Bill ended up waking up, and then Richard shot him in the head 3 times before turning his attention to Inez. He told Inez that he was the Night Stalker, as he was known in the media, and then he forced her to swear that she loved Satan while he was beating her. After stealing everything of value he could find, he dragged Inez to another room and raped her, and after that he demanded more cash and more jewelry, and he demanded her to swear on Satan that there was no more. Before leaving, Richard told Inez for her to tell them that the Night Stalker was there. After that, she untied herself and went to a neighbor's house to get help for her fiancé because Bill was severely injured, and 2 of the 3 bullets were removed from his head, and fortunately he survived.
Why on earth would you have hurt those people? Why did you kill those people?
No comments. No comments. I cannot answer that at this time.
So Inez gave a detailed description of her attacker to investigators, and police obtained a cast of Richard's footprints from the Romero house. The car Richard had stolen was found on August 28 in Koreatown, Los Angeles, and police obtained a single fingerprint from the rearview mirror, despite Richard's careful efforts to wipe the car clean of his prints. The fingerprint was identified as belonging to Richard, who was a 25-year-old drifter from Texas with a long rap sheet that included many arrests for traffic and illegal drug violations. On the next day, on August 29th, law enforcement officials decided to release a mugshot of Richard Ramirez from a 1984 arrest for auto theft to the media, and finally the Night Stalker had a face. The media coverage, along with many clues from witnesses and survivors, led to Richard Ramirez's capture on August 31st. Jury selection for the trial began on July 22nd of 1988. At his first court appearance, Richard raised a hand with the pentagon drawn on it and yelled, "Hail Satan." On August 3rd, the Los Angeles Times reported that some jail employees had overheard Richard planning to shoot the prosecutor with a gun, which he intended to have smuggled into the courtroom. So a metal detector was installed outside, and intensive searches were conducted on people entering. On August 14th, the trial was interrupted because one of the jurors, Phyllis Singletary, didn't arrive at the courtroom. Later, she was found dead at her apartment. At first, the jury was terrified, wondering if Richard was the responsible, if he somehow had ordered anyone to do it. But later, it was determined that she was killed by her boyfriend, who then committed suicide at a hotel. On September 20th of 1989, Richard Ramirez was convicted of all charges: 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. And during the penalty phase of the trial on November 7th, he was sentenced to die in California's gas chamber. After the death sentence, he said to the reporters, "Big deal. Death always went with the territory. See you in Disneyland." He did some appeals, but it didn't change anything. Richard died of complications to B-cell lymphoma on June 7 of 2013 at 53 years old. He had been on death row for more than 23 years, and it's estimated that he would have been in his early 70s when he would be executed. Now I'm going to put here a part of an interview that he did while he was in prison, where he admitted that he was evil. I mean, at least he was aware that he wasn't a good person.
Do you admit to being evil, Richard?
We are all evil in some form or another, are we not?
I'm asking you the questions, my friend.
Yes, I am evil. Not 100%, but I am evil. Evil has always existed. The perfect world most people seek shall never come to pass, and it's going to get worse. The great epochs of our life is when we gain the courage to rebaptize our evil qualities as being our best qualities.
But even though he admits that he is evil, he doesn't seem to regret what he did. Didn't seem to regret taking all of those lives, which doesn't sit right with me. Like, I don't understand how you can live knowing you took someone else's life. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this case. And if you're new here, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and click the bell next to the subscribe button so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. I upload videos every Saturday. And if you want to suggest a case, you can reach out to me through the comments or through my social media. My Instagram and my Twitter we will link down below in the description box. That's all I have for you guys today. Stay tuned for next week's video because it's gonna be a little different. It's not gonna be just a true crime video like I normally do. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye bye.